I'm Orville Hall, Director of Marketing for Adidas for 16 years, marketing consultant with Fila, and at the same time, Director of Marketing for Polo Ground J Records. Opened a restaurant, Hollis Queens, Hollis Famous Burgers, had a hip-hop museum inside, brought about 45 countries in the Hollis. Now I'm President of Marketing for a multimedia facility in the Bronx, True Sound Music. Done a lot of things.
My name is Mike Jolicoeur. I'm a tour manager, worked for a lot of different bands, De La Soul, Tribe Called Quest, Most Def, presently Common. Recording artists play a live show. That's my responsibility to move that entourage from city to city based on what the routing for the tour is.
My name is Nada Ranks. I am a reggae rapper slash actor slash songwriter, stage performer. I made a couple of #1 songs. You may be familiar with a song by the name of Them a Bleach Out Them Skin. Another one by the name of Rikers Island, that's me and Cockatee. Another one, we call it Brrr. That's basically who I am and what I do.
My name is Edwin Freeman. I'm an actor, screenwriter, producer, also recording artist. You may know me from portraying the character of Mrs. C in the 2009 biopic Notorious, based on the life of the rapper Notorious B.I.G., aka Christopher Wallace. I portrayed the character of Mrs. C in that film. Mrs. C is a legendary hip-hop DJ responsible for discovering Notorious B.I.G. and introducing him to Puff Daddy.
My name is Self-Service. I am a multi-platinum producer. I produce music. I don't make beats. I produce music. I produce artists. I make stars. That's what I do.
Hey, what's up? My name's David Jolicoeur, aka Trugoy the Dove. 1/3 of the band De La Soul, MC, some say rapper, wordsmith, lyricist, etc., etc. I officially started in the music business, recording business, I want to say 1988. Professionally, I've always been writing for fun since I was maybe 14, but professionally signed to contract and recording music and releasing music, I believe I might have been 18 at the time.
I was about 18 years old. At the time, I was doing music. A friend of mine introduced me to an independent filmmaker by the name of Mark Sex. Mark Sex was also from the music industry. He was part of a group called No Face, worked real closely with Digital Underground, Tupac Shakur, and he was instrumental in ushering a different sound, like a funk type of hip hop that was going on at the time. Anyway, a friend of mine introduced me to him and what he was doing, making a transition from music to film. He was doing direct-to-DVD movies. And it was a film called The Mission that he had an idea to shoot. 2 days later, he was on location filming that. It was released direct-to-DVD. He marketed it in Source magazine, Rap Pages, Double XL, which was popular hip-hop magazines at the time. It went on to be a cult classic. Estee Lauder's daughter, Karen Lauder, she has a company called Bandit Pictures. She was like the beginning, or it kind of preceded what's known today as webisodes. One was called Downtown Saturday Night, and the other one was called Serena's Night Out. It was like interactive films. From there, I just kept working at my craft, networking, keeping my acting chops up. Not too long after that was when I landed the role in Mrs. C and Notorious.
I started in the music industry in 95. So that's roughly about 20 years. And it's hard to get a good placement in this business. So I just been blessed in all my maneuvers and everything to be able to be in position to make the right placements that I made. And it results of it all came to 20 platinum plats. I work with everybody from Ron Isley to Jay-Z to Bone Thugs and Harmony, a lot of hip hop acts.
I kind of got actually thrown into it in 1989. I was going to school, I was actually pursuing a accounting degree. I was on that track, and that's really what I wanted to do. My brother, who's actually one of the members of De La Soul, asked me to come on the road with him and handle their affairs. The guy that they had doing it was more focused on hanging out and partying than he was on doing what he needed to do. Ironically, I was so set on going to college, getting a degree, and being an accountant. That was what my dad was. I figured the best person to speak to about it was my dad, because I thought for sure he would move me away from trying to do that. I spoke to my pops and I was like, Dave brought up this opportunity. What do you think? I'm going to school. Give me your thoughts on it. I want to get your take on it, because I thought for sure he's going to be like, nah, I'll stay in school. And my dad told me the best education I could get is from traveling the world, and that it would be an opportunity that might not be available to me later in life. And he told me actually that traveling would be like a different college. As much as I thought he was going to be the person to kind of push me away from it, he was the person that I'll say sealed my fate in terms of actually being a tour manager and doing that.
You know, I was in music class in elementary school and junior high school and high school, and was in a rap group out of high school, second group to sign Profile Records after Run DMC. Actually, the group I was in, the show boy, has the most sampled record in music, a record called Triggerman, original name Drag Rap. Then moved into the corporate world of working with Adidas. I lived in Queens Village and went to junior high school in Hollis where I met Jam Master Jay. Hollis has always been strong with Adidas. So way after Run DMC was with Adidas, and ran around the country with Run DMC. People in the neighborhood had on Adidas. I was audio visual technician for Bellevue Hospital at the time. Had video equipment, so decided I was going to make a commercial and show Adidas how popular the sneakers was in my neighborhood. So got the camera, didn't do the commercial yet, but called information and got through to somebody. Made the commercial, sent it to a guy named Ziggy. It was real good with the president, videotaped to the president, and went from there to the president hiring me after some things. Went through the company and became marketing manager for Urban Market. Was the one that went down and seen Kobe in high school. Worked with Keyshawn Johnson, Tracy McGrady, Tim Duncan, Missy Elliott, Run DMC. This goes on. So I said all that to say I started in this business when I was about 5 years old.
I've been working in this industry basically from a tender age. 10, 11, I started doing school concerts, tasty talent contests, area talent shows and all of that, you know, when I started back in Jamaica 24 years ago in the business, you know. I've been working ever since.
I think what's probably remained consistent with myself personally from childhood to adulthood would probably be investing in my experiences, whether it's learning a lesson in the line of work that I do or even the artwork that I work on. It's about expressing through experiences. So that's probably been, you know, one thing that's consistent for me as a child, just always writing and drawing what I felt and saw. And I guess through my adult years and through my career, just writing and expressing and whichever way, investing into the experience I've had, in my life throughout the years.
Once I know something that I want in life, anything I want to get involved with, I'll do my research on that topic or whatever it is, the logistics of what it is I want to get involved with. I read any books, watching videos online, or even talking to someone who has already been involved in that realm. My thing is always to get a strong overall understanding of what it is I want to deal with. Once I do that, I map out a solid plan on how I'm going to obtain that, and then I'll just stick to that, and I'll just keep going. I don't take no for an answer. And sometimes it don't happen exactly the way that I want it to. What I have to do in that instance is just go back to the drawing board. Sometimes you just got to tweak your action plan. Keep working at it, and sooner or later it will manifest. You know what I mean? It will come into fruition. It's definitely my will, drive, and determination, and working hard and diligently until I achieve my goal.
I think my drive, I was blessed with thinking that there's something I can come up with that'll pop. And I remember my parents building something in the house, and there was a lot of sheets of plastic, but you could write on it. I remember breaking them up in squares and painting pictures on them and walking around the neighborhood. asking people if they want to buy it. I remember a man cutting his grass, bought a fist, red, black, and green fist, and he bought one. And I remember I ran back to the garage and started making pictures. That's my first memory of the drive. Had to be like 6, 7, coming up with an idea, execute, going out and selling it. And that's still consistent to this day.
I think my biggest thing is I've been a little anal. And I think for the job I do, it's one of the requirements in terms of your personality. I've always been a person who, it's funny, my mother used to tell me and my brother to clean up. And then by the time we were teenagers, she didn't ask him anymore because when he cleaned up, he was more about moving things around and making them look orderly, as opposed to me. I was a person that would clean up. You know how like you have a cup on a table or you have a box on the floor, and let's say there's juice around the cup or there's dust around the box on the floor. I've never been the one that could just clean up around the cup or sweep up around the box and be okay with it. Like I had to lift up the cup and wipe under it, or I had to move the box and make sure I completely cleaned up the dust. Those are real basic examples of, I guess, that degree of being anal. But I think for me, the thing that's been most constant is attention to detail and having something inside of me that kind of nagged me when something wasn't completed to the utmost point of completion that it could be. That stayed with me basically, so far at least, my entire life. I'm a perfectionist, yes, I am.
Liking to perform, liking to, the arts, liking to do the arts, like with the music, the acting, whatever. That has been consistent with me from a child until now, definitely.
God. Before everything, God. All praises to God. All praises due to Allah. All praises due to God. I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for Him.
The entertainment business is a lot about who you know and who you're related to. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't have a certain skill set and a certain drive, you're not going to be successful. Just like in a normal corporate job, submitting your application isn't enough. There has to be some kind of personal connection that you have with these people to kind of at least get yourself a job that has some degree of mobility where you can kind of eventually say that you're actually doing something in the industry. In terms of entering the industry, it was a lot more, I would say, loose in terms of, I think the people who are actually running those businesses, which are the artists themselves, hadn't grown to a point where the business was as official as it is now. So I think that people were more accustomed to hiring people that they were familiar with, hiring friends, hiring family. Nowadays, I think business has progressed so much. A lot of times you have independent contractors that bands hire but don't know the person from Adam. I think because in a lot of instances the industry was a lot less formal, it created a lot more space for you to be able to find a place to fit in any business. If you got people who employ you who have decent heads on their shoulders, if you're not doing what you need to do and are able to excel at it, then of course you're not going to last. But I definitely think way back then it was easier to fit in. Not to mention the numbers wasn't as high. Everything is double, triple, quadruple check. So I don't think it would have been the same if I would have tried to get in, like, let's say now versus, I'm thinking like almost 25 years ago.
I think I would, because in this day and age, to me, it's easier for a creator to get his stuff heard and get his stuff out there because of the viral and the social network and all they have going on right now. Owning a studio is easier right now than in my time because all you have to do is have a laptop and an M-box and a good microphone and you got a studio. It wasn't so privileged, especially in a third world country where it's not many people have money and access to have a recording facility. Now things is more accessible, technology up there.
In my journey, we didn't really have so many things available. Like you have things like the internet, man, that's a beast, man. Because we kind of had to do things by grassroots. But there's a lot of different avenues now available than there were when I first started out. I think now I don't want to say it's easier, but the hustle and grind is a lot different now. I think if I was coming up now, I think I would have had an even greater success.
Yeah, because part of an attribute of what creators, entrepreneurs, businessmen do is figure it out. And marketing, you learn you have to figure it out. That's what marketing is. Who's the consumer? What do they do? Why do they do it? So I don't care where you put me. I'll figure it out. Figure out what I have as a resource to get it out there, and then who I want to get it to. Figure it out. You do it every day.
I think to look back and see how my success and the success of my group transformed was probably something that was for its time. To place it in this era now and hope that it would follow the same tracks would probably be something that I think would be totally different. I think time and that moment is a special thing. The innocence that I had then and that my band and the group members had then to pursue a career would probably be a little bit different today. I think the reason being is that time and a moment definitely dictates a path. I think at this time I probably would be raised in a different city by maybe a family who are in a different environment of things. Maybe my household would be a little bit more different. Maybe the experiences that I have would be a whole lot different. The friends, school, so on and so forth. I think the impact of my life at the time and my environment at the time and my upbringing at the time, all those things indicated, the direction that I was going in. And I guess putting it in a new setting, new environment, new conditions, it would totally be different.
Yeah, because I keep my ear to the streets. I keep in the era of what it is. That's it. Just nice. Period.
Having a name as an artist, as a creator that people can relate to. When you say Nardo Ranks, you can tag one or more than one hit song to the name. Like real hit songs that, cross over across the board, which not only is known in like my ethnic market, but it's known in other market across the board, in other genres of music, people know about it and so forth, So that's one of my greatest accomplishments.
I think for me, my crowning achievement in my life is just being able to look in the mirror and being happy with me. I'm a good dude. I'm loyal to people. I care about people. Other people's successes don't get me down. I'm not a jealous person. I'm not a prideful person. I'm a good citizen. In this world, in this day and age, especially growing up, I think in the time that I grew up with all the things that was going on, crack era, all the kind of craziness, young black males out in the street, police and all that kind of stuff. And just even being on the road, which, as a tour manager with the sex, drugs, rock and roll, which is a big part of it. It really is. I'm just happy that a lot of that stuff didn't jade me and put me in a space where I couldn't look at myself and see right from wrong. And I'm a dude that when I see a spider in the house, I wrap it up in tissue and take it out and actually try to shake it off the tissue and let it live, because that's one of God's creatures with a soul. I'm that dude.
Biggest accomplishment that I'm still in the business. That's my biggest accomplishment. I'm still in the business.
I think my personal greatest accomplishment is probably being a part of raising another human being and bringing them into this world with, some sort of moral fiber, sensitivity, smarts, diligence, kindness, so on and so forth. Having a kid and, seeing that child become an amazing human being, everybody's kid is going to be amazing to them, but, just trying to do the right things and feeling like you've done some of the right things and along the way probably made some errors, but you learn from it and you move on, and the outcome is seeing somebody who, God willing, goes to school, graduates from college, and then leads their own life. It's kind of an impressive thing. Professionally, I think one of my personal, and I guess my group, I always have to say group because it is a collaborative effort professionally, would probably be consistency and longevity. I think, throughout our 24 years, we've had ups and downs, peaks and valleys, and you definitely reap from your hard work. But I think the most successful thing is being able to still remain and work and have people who adore what you're doing and support what you're doing, even now in this 2013 year when you began maybe 24 years ago.
My greatest accomplishment, I haven't even achieved that. I haven't even been done yet. I am very grateful for being a part of the Notorious film, because that was epic in itself. But just, even before that, just knowing at a young age what it was I wanted to pursue and achieve, and just having my list of goals of what I wanted to achieve in life. And, as I go along, I cross out each thing I achieve, with being able to look back at that to answer on a scale of to pick one particular thing. Like I said, it hasn't even been done yet. I'm still on that quest, I'm still on that path.
A lot of great accomplishments that I never thought I would ever accomplish. Being under the tutelage of dudes like Leo Cohen, Kevin Lyles, Herb Gotti even though he's like my youngest, but I learned from these dudes how to handle the business. I've been in the business for 20 years for entertainment. And it's like, now I'm learning how to run my own business. If I'd have tried to do it then, I would have never known. And I was too, green in order to try and figure out how it was to handle what I'm handling now. Knowing what I know now is like, it's a totally different thing. But one of my greatest accomplishments to this day is this place, this facility. Because I do multimedia at its height. 6,000 square feet of perfection.
What would Jesus say? Well, that's a good question. Is there Jesus? Is there really a Jesus? But anyway, what would Jesus say? I think Jesus would say he's proud of me, because at least, I try to keep a message within the music. You see what I'm saying? Because that's first and foremost with music. The first musician was King David. The most powerful book of the Bible is Psalms, and that's all music, So I think Jesus would be proud because me keep the message, and when I started, it wasn't for really the money and all of that, because the figures wasn't so astronomical and things wasn't so sophisticated, so it was more for the love of it, so at least I kept the message within it, so I think Jesus would say he's proud of it.
I think Jesus will be pleased with it. I really feel like he would say, you really worked hard to give your clients the best that you could give them. Nobody, at any job, you don't hit a home run every time you go up to the plate. You're going to falter, make some mistakes, and you're going to do some things that if you was in somebody's employ, that person wouldn't be happy with you, and that person wouldn't be pleased. The issue is when you make those mistakes or you have those missteps, how you recover from that? What did you do next that kind of showed this person your value? And so I have those in my career. I remember those moments, but those moments also the ones that drive me. Those are the ones that keep me on my P's and Q's, because I try to keep them few and far between. But I think Jesus in general would be very pleased. I think he'd be happy with my work ethic, my loyalty, me striving to just really be the best. Being a tour manager a lot of times is a selfless job, and it's a job where you can have pride, but you still need to be a very humble person. One of the biggest things he'd be happiest with me about is that I was able to master that and conquer that and not let my pride as a man and as a person interfere with my ability to be in service of someone else to do my job. I think overall he'd be like, yeah, you did your thing.
Jesus. He said I'm all right. I ain't your greatest, but he said I'm helping people. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to enhance and help people right now. At this point in my life and my career, 20 years in the game was like crazy. When I was like, I remember I had 10 years in the game trying to figure out what is my contribution to the world at 10 years. And I couldn't see it, but now I can see it. My duty is to help and build and add on to life. I think you would be kind of happy. Maybe not with the way that I'm doing it so much, because, you know, hip hop is real political in different ways. So it's like trying to please him. I won't be able to please him at all sometimes, and then sometimes I can please him. But I feel like the positive outweighs the negative of what I'm doing.
What would Jesus say? I'm not too sure what Jesus would say about my body of work. And if I just look at Jesus as a human being critiquing what I've done, I think, you know, he'd probably say, you know, you work hard, you've been truthful, you've been honest, and you've been conscious about what you're doing. So
he would say that you definitely went at every opportunity. And I'm very clear on the things that I think that can work, and I try it. You know, everybody has these ideas, so I'm not special in that way, but everybody don't try it. Put the time in to do what you gotta do to make that idea work. If it fails, cool, but, you know, let it fail while you're trying, not just because you didn't try. I think he'll say, yo, you went at every opportunity. Like, even if it didn't work, you went at it. Talked about it. I tried to convince other people about it during my day just to see if it would work. I went at it.
Everything I do it in the spirit of serving someone in some shape, form, or fashion. Whether like talking youth, aspiring to youth who want to get into the business of acting or music. You know, anything I do, it has to have some form of service attached to it. I don't do anything just for the sake of doing it, you know, to make money or, you know, just for the heck of it. So I think that what he would say about my body at work is he is a man that he strives to serve others in all that he has done, you know, which is, again, a great commission, serve others.
Same thing. The same thing, you know. I'm not saying I'm holier than thou, you know, because everybody, you know, make mistakes in life, but I think he would be proud of me for the work that I do musically.
What he would tell me is to continue to push and strive on, because even though I've done so much, it's a whole lot more to do. There's no limits with God. God is infinite, unlimited. Some would say I'm doing great things. There's so much more to do. So I think God will say, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
God is personal to every human being. So if I say what God is to me, it's not going to apply to what God is to you. God is within us. So at the end of the day, I can't say the politically correct answer to what God would say. How he talk to me every day, that's my man. He'd be like, yo, do your thing, homie. Do what you do, build, add on. As long as it's positive, there's nothing negative with it, you ain't hurting nobody, you ain't abusing nobody, you ain't slandering nobody, nothing like that. Man, do you, homie. You good. That's the way he talked to me. I don't know how he talked to everybody else. I just know how he deal with me. That's my dude.
In respect to the job, I think God would say the same thing. People who love you don't just butter you up and give you the goodness. You know, they tell you about yourself. So I think he would say that there was times you got a little lazy. There was times you could have shown better judgment. There was times, especially like in the early part of my career, I've transformed from being a kid to being a grown man. You know, when you're a kid, you make kid choices. You have kid reactions and you process things like a kid. So for me, there was a huge learning curve because at 19, I was dealing with people that was like 30, 35. You know, these was men, at least like the promoters and the production managers and all these other people in the houses, the venues I would walk into. And I was on the road with like 10, 12 people. So it's not only trying to keep my emotions in check. I'm out there with like teenagers these young adults as well that I'm responsible for in a lot of ways. So at that time, you make a lot of decisions like you do now, like I do now, but it was just a different degree of experience. But you make your decisions based on the breadth of experience that you have. So being 19 and being out there was times that, I made judgment calls. I learned from it, but I could have made better judgment calls. I could have been more patient. I didn't have an understanding of people, of personalities. And I didn't factor in people's humanity. You don't feel good today, you had an argument with your wife, your kids are getting bad grades, whatever the case may be, your mother ain't well, whatever. So there's a lot of things I didn't factor in. So it made me make my choices a little funny. So I think God would definitely, being all-knowing, I think he would definitely chastise me a little bit for those miscues and missteps, and definitely for the times where I had already done them and found my way to repeat them. I definitely think he would say something about that. But I do believe overall, he knows where my heart is and my dedication and my commitment. And I think overall, he'd be like, considering where you were and where you've come and how you've grown in your professionalism, you did a good job.
I think they both know what they're doing, so they probably both know what they did for me. So he probably say the same thing. Yeah, you're right. You're right. He might disagree with Jesus. They're both a part of my work, part of what I do, both a part of why I do it. My philosophy within marketing is believing. You gotta believe.
God would probably say, I'm proud of your work and proud of your efforts. And yeah, you've been conscious. You've been trying to do the right thing. You've been consistent. You've learned from some mistakes, and you aren't perfect. So, you're doing a good job.
It depends on what I'm doing and the time I'm doing it. Depending on what you're trying to get across, I would like a campaign or a project that makes them know about me without me promoting myself. I would like that what I've created gets to them without promoting myself. Decide, am I going to promote myself? This is what I did, or are you going to just do another project that's going to get so big that you're going to go, who's that? I've made a conscious decision to work that will get to them, because it's also a good gauge for me to see if what I'm doing is working.
Not that, I'm not doing a good job, but I think do a better job. I think that when you go to a show, it's about an experience. Everybody there is trying to have an experience, believe it or not. The artist is trying to have a moment. The fans are definitely trying to have a moment. But, the people you don't see, like the house crew and the production manager and maybe the front office of the building, everybody's trying to have an experience, be it this crazy kind of experience or an effortless night. The sound men want things sonically to sound amazing. Everybody wants this experience. And I think my job is to try to create the perfect experience for each class of people when I walk into a venue. If you can create an amazing experience, people begin to comment on the experience, which means in essence, they're commenting on you. Yo, so-and-so came through and the show was amazing. I had such a good time. From the artist standpoint and even the fan standpoint, you don't get that recognition. You never are. You sort of like a basketball player on the bench, but when you come in, you grab 15 boards. Don't nobody care about dude who pulling down 15 boards. They want to know about the dude who dunked, the dude with the crossover, all of that. So you don't get that kind of praise. And if you working and looking for that kind of praise, you're in the wrong business. So from the fans and the artists and those kind of people, you're not going to get that kind of recognition. In terms of my brand, you definitely get that recognition from all the behind the scenes people, the promoters, the working crew, the front office of the building, all those people, they start to say, hey, we just booked Common, great. But they're not only saying great because they dig his music, they know because it's going to make for an easy day, or what I describe as them being able to fulfill their experience for the day, whatever that agenda is. They're going to come in. Their crew is going to be tight. I know Mike is out there with them. He's going to make sure that people are where they need to be, when they need to be there. They're going to come into our house respectful. They're going to play on time. It's going to be easy to settle up all the money. They're going to have all the stuff that they need. They're going to speak to my people with a degree of respect. They know their business. You create an experience for that branch of people. That's amazing. And then ultimately, if you do that enough times, people begin to talk about you, which is basically your brand, and how good it is and how great it is and how fun it is to work with and how easy it is and professional it is. And, that word spreads, and hopefully it follows you like any brand, I guess.
I think what we can do to make things better is have people in place to do more professional work to get the product out there to be heard across the board, not just in our Caribbean market. Everyone, basically. We got to figure out a way how to do that. I'm tired of hearing they don't know how to market dancehall and they don't know how to sell a dancehall artist. It's the same way how you sell a rapper, because at first you guys didn't know how to market the rapper. As I say, we just need to get some mechanism in place to do that. That will let more people hear me or know about that hasn't been, basically. Yeah.
Well, what I could do to prove promotion and to tap into audiences, people who are not familiar with me or my work, is to get involved with projects and issues and causes that's on an international global scale. Like you have a lot of things going on in crises in Africa and all around the world. Just even being a beacon or a vessel of change for those issues. Speaking up on those various issues and even doing projects. In Nigeria, you have Nollywood now, which is Nigeria film. India, they have Bollywood as their genre of films. You know what I mean? But even collaborating on some type of scale with those different genres is basically broaden and help continue to build and expand my brand.
I think what my group can probably do to insert ourselves into maybe the whole scene, the industry now a bit more, to get people aware of who we are and what we do, is probably to be more in on the scenes. I think what we do and what we've done has its time, it has its era, and I think it was a different way to pursue being in the scene. I think, of course, if you want to be out there, you have to hang out, you have to go out, you have to be a part of things and be at certain places. And I think, for us, we've had more responsibilities, whether it be families or just other things going on in our lives. That's something that you have to insert yourself in. You got to be on the scene. So I would say probably being in on the scene a bit more would probably be something that could be helpful.
You can't really call it. There's so much that you can do. It's limitless to what you can do to promote and improve your brand.
Chaperones, I guess is a word I would use. I don't think there's enough people being honest with people. And I don't think that there are enough people who are willing to take constructive criticism and have people be honest with them. I know that's like a blanket statement. I get that. But in my time, especially when I was coming up, you had people who would really like pull your coat and tell you like what's what. Like, yo, this is not cool, or you're going about this the wrong way, or hey, there's a better way to do this. And you had any sense, you would listen. This is somebody who's had this experience, is doing what you have been doing, what you want to do, what you're trying to do, and he's got something to share with you. He's trying to listen up and learn something. It also wasn't like nothing to something people. Like you didn't have somebody who was like doing nothing yesterday and tomorrow, they had a record and they sold 30 million records and now they out of here. Their fame precludes the natural growth process because they haven't made many choices, and a lot of their choices have been 100%. They're not really in a place to hear your opinion of choices they're making because they're like, everything I do is good. Why should I listen to what you tell them? Like, if what you were saying was right, you wouldn't be where you at. Look at where I'm at. So I think that people aren't willing to take the same kind of constructive criticism. And then on the same note, people ain't willing to jump out there like they used to be to kind of tell you like, yo, that's a bad idea. Or, I'm talking about the industry as a whole. People get confused. They think that the 1% is really the 99%. You got 1% of the people in the entertainment industry who's really doing it, whether it's on, the film side, the television side, music side. Okay, you got 1% of that population. That's the 1%. That's the people that can do whatever they want to do, commanding ridiculous amounts of money, living a life you see on MTV or whatever. And then you got the other 99% of people who make their business go around, who actually keep it going. No disrespect, but like the actors who's acting in like smaller parts in a soap opera or doing like a big part on a sitcom, or the dude who plays like the 1,200 seat nightclub on a Wednesday, or, them people. Like I said, the 1%. And then the 99%. You got all these people who a lot of times aspire to the 99%, but they really a part of that 1% pool. And I say for those people, if there was more of a community where people actually could give a person honest commentary, give a person direction, and those large group of people was willing to take more constructive criticism and understand that this isn't an attack, this is an attempt to help you. I think if I could comment on anything, I would say that to me, that's what's really missing.
No more artists in development. When we was coming up, A&Rs guide a person on the way that they needed to be a star or an artist. People don't do that no more. In the labels, they ain't got A&Rs. The A&Rs don't even want to meet with people no more. Like, this is just so different. This is different than when I came up. Way different. But it needs A&R in it.
You know, it's this whole cookie cutter idea. It doesn't encourage individuality or uniqueness anymore. It's kind of like, well, this is how we market and promoted Lil Wayne's album like this. We're going to try to do the same thing with Drake's or a 2 Chainz. It really doesn't encourage being unique or really creative. And the same thing with film. You know, they do what's called like a market analysis or a forecast, like financial forecast. Like, this is what the last 4 African American films did. This is what the budget was. This is what it did in this market, that market. And they kind of base what you're going to do on that. And I think when you do that, you limit the possibilities of where it could really go. And also, what's lacking in addition to that is what kind of goes hand in hand is this whole instant thing. You know, they kind of judge you on what was the first week sale, like opening weekend, what did it do? I mean, which is, in my perspective, it's not right and exact because it may build up momentum over time. Like, you had the movie 12 Years a Slave, right? Which came out. It was a great movie, by the way, by director Steve McQueen. But that movie came out and it did limited release at first. But it built, and based on what it did on that limited release, they went and did a wide release, and its performance is doing pretty good. As opposed to something like a Best Man Holiday, which is a good movie as well. I encourage all to go see both. But that came out right away, it was a wide release. So different films or different albums may perform differently. You can't use the same template or the same business model with each project. It's a thing that I feel is an issue, is this microwave idea, this instant. What was your first week sales? And then they base the album, or they judge it on what the first week sales were, or what was the opening weekend on this film. So how many viewers does this television show have? Where it may perform differently as time goes on, but they don't have any patience. Like, if you got one bad season for a television show, they pulling the plug on you. Your film doesn't do good opening weekend, you may not get another film. Your album perform good first week, they may not want to put that much into your next album budget as far as marketing promotion is concerned. I also think it's lacking, because of those things, was more about money and less about creativity. A lot of copycats and followers in the game, and that kind of like kills the whole, I used to be enthusiastic about and looking forward to albums that was dropping, the movies that was coming out, television shows that were premiering, but not anymore, really. Not necessarily anymore. It's like I've seen them all. Really. I'm not the only one that feels like that.
People that's creating new things. There's a certain respect you get out of getting through the model of how you have to get something presented to get it to market. There's something about that fight idea, and then the person got to spend money to do it, that they didn't pay their rent, so they can put the prototype together and get it to a president. So there's a certain respect to that fight when you see something on the shelf that you know that person went through this fight. You know what I'm saying? So, but that happening gives people control of how you get things out in the fashion business, the music business, the food business. You know what I'm saying? So that becomes so regulated or so controlled that you don't, in certain points, you stop seeing new things and you stop hearing new things. They're only letting certain things through these doors at certain times.
In my particular opinion, I think the only thing that the industry may be missing is, to a degree, creativity and Yeah, that's what I'd probably think. A bit of creativity. I think we have a lot more clones than we have originals nowadays. It's good music. It's entertaining or what have you. But I think there's a time in every year, genre, era, what have you, it becomes a bit repetitious. And I think right now that's the state of this this era right now. We're in the midst of a bit of repetition. It works. It looks and sounds good, but they're too much carbon copies in creativity.
The balance, you know. The industry is missing a lot of respect for the elders, people that was before, and that's what a lot of I think the business is missing. You have to have the balance. You have to respect who was there before you and honor that. And until that is done, then you can move on at a level, because you're gonna think that you're the one that making it happen when you had a million people before you who paved the way and did a lot of work too. But if you don't recognize them, how the hell you gonna know where you going and where you supposed to carry the baton? You understand? So I think that is one of the main things missing out of the business.
If I could change anything in the industry, I would like to see the days where fans and entertainers didn't cross the line. I think it was special when you had people who were either behind the scenes or were fans staying in their position, and entertainers and the stars in their position. I think everybody nowadays is a star. No one pays to go to see shows, and everybody got a hookup or a friend or somebody they know, and it takes away the special aspect of it sometimes. I think that everybody wants to be on the stage and wants to be in the spotlight, and it just takes away the special factor of fans appreciating, and artists giving. I think nowadays, since everybody, since everybody is like, there is no dividing line, artists don't even give as much anymore, because the audience is half your friends or half the industry, and vice versa. So if anything, I would change. I would like to see that divide happen again, so that it becomes special again.
I would try to open up the door more for more independent, new, creative work. And I would put it on a lot of the directors and young directors. There is a need for content. There's an internet, a big world now, not just a movie theater. Start making movies for the young actors and actresses that's not working. You could put a lot of these young people on soundtracks. There's things that you can do to really motivate and start business in the industry that's not going through these same doors. So that's what I would change. I would get people to start doing things that can involve independent work. In movies, you got pictures on the wall, put an artist picture up there. And then, because through social networking, you can say that's artwork by, and that person can be directed right to your site. Use it to get more work out.
I don't know that I would, man. Sometimes the inequality of things is what makes them work. Sometimes the thing that you despise about something, or the thing that you don't care for about something, is what makes it beautiful. Okay, let me first put my disclaimer. I don't believe in fighting dogs. I don't believe in rolling dogs or animal cruelty or anything of that sort. I don't. But I always think about this when I think about a pit bull. Amazing breed. I've owned a couple. Love the dog. What a lot of people don't understand is what makes that dog amazing is its tenacity. For all the things that I included find wrong in dog fighting, I understand that what makes it an amazing breed is its history in dogfight. What makes it super human friendly, and which makes it a great babysitter, a great family pet, a great companion, its ability to not quit a fight, which translates into you can play with it forever. It's focused on the task that it's trying to do. I guess what I'm saying is all the things that you would say come through because of negativity is what makes the dog amazing, an amazing breed. So I liken that to the entertainment industry. If you started correcting a whole bunch of things, I'm sad to say it, I don't know if it would be the same animal. I don't know if it would still be an amazing thing. Sometimes the inequity in things is what makes it great. That's not always the case, but a lot of times that's what happens. So, sometimes I get frustrated and, something will piss me off in terms of how things are done. But I think, like I said, it's a big soup. It got a whole bunch of different ingredients, and that's what makes it taste good.
I would change the way how a lot of the people in the industry do business, basically. A lot of them are not business people. A lot of them are hustlers, just hustling the shit, and don't really care about elevating the business itself, So I would change the way how business is done, Some of these people in my business, doing business, they don't even have an office with an address and all of that stuff. So, I would change the way how they do business.
We have to come up with new models of doing business, man. I mean, we have to encourage more so the artistic value and more the whole creative mode. I mean, you got to develop platforms and let these artists be who they are to express themselves to the world, and then from there, based around that, we could come up with a marketing and promotion strategy of how we're going to present this to the world. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, I would be, again, I would change that. I would change it where I would say, let's get back to creating, man. We'll figure the money thing out later on. Let's get back. Some of the greatest albums, man, or movies, television shows, because people will be, it's more about the art form during those times and less about the dollar. I mean, I know we live in a financial capitalistic society. We need money. Yeah, we all know. Nobody's oblivious to that or denying that. But at the same time, art should be about art. So, I would say that right there. I would change that.
I would put artists in development back in. The way people making music today isn't music to me. I'm talking about live instrumentation. I'm talking about guitar players, bass players, keyboardists, people coming in and doing what they do. There's artistry to it. But keyboardists nowadays is sometimes obsolete. You got these programs to play keys. But if I could change it, I would rather say, okay, as far as hip hop, bring in a whole live band and do it and see how you fit in. A lot of these dudes don't know the half of what it takes to be a star. They don't know the beginning. I like music.
Well, I always have a motto saying that everything happens for a purpose in life. So, it's hard for me to say mistakes, that I made a mistake, because how I look at it is like, how it has been done, that was how it was ordained. But, one of the things I would say is, one of the mistakes I would say I make is not trying to learn the business part of the music from an earlier standpoint of my career. I guess it was the age caused that, but that's one of the mistakes, not learning the business part of the music. God, it's 10% music to me and 90% business. So I would say that's one of the mistakes, But everything happens, as I say, for a reason and purpose. That's how I look at it.
I know it sounds rather cliche, but I don't think there are any regrets in my personal career. I think everything is an experience, and you learn from it, and you grow, and you get better at what you do, and you shape your life and to be a better life. I don't think there's anything that's happened terribly bad in my career, our career. So maybe I can't really answer that question. But for me, I feel like every experience, especially the bad ones that you might regret, has been a learning lesson, and it's only made me a better person today.
I don't know. I mean, it'd be hard for me to say that and not be contradictory to everything I said, because if you say you're learning and, a mistake, you learn from it too. Very hard for me to say my biggest mistake, because I use everything in coming up with ideas and executing ideas, even the mistakes. I just won't do it again. Or it didn't work for that for a certain reason. So it helps me to find out what that reason is. I probably won't make that mistake again. So I'm gonna have to stick with that. I'm gonna have to stick with that. I don't think I had a real big mistake because I try to use everything to the next program.
When I was younger and first starting out in the business, I had managers, and I kind of relied on them to handle my business while I focused on the creative aspect of my career, which to me, as I look back in hindsight, you know they say hindsight is 20/20. As I look back, I think that was a great mistake because had I been more hands-on, I think certain outcomes would have been different. And along with that, I think the mistake I made is when I was dealing with music is not branching off into film earlier, because you know it's different aspects. You know, I mean, you have writing, you have film production. You understand what I'm saying? So it's just again, it goes back to what I was saying as far as thinking and working outside of your box or your comfort zone. So I think one of the mistakes I made, raising mistakes, is not doing that earlier.
I'm happy with the way I handle my shit. You know, I would have said there was a mistake if I'd have took the route that the rest took. I took the route where I was behind the scenes. That way, even today, I'm still relevant. Dudes that came out, like, they caught the money for that time and they went public. So, and this is a little deep. They said, let me get the money now, do everything now, and they got everything then. But right now, who's checking for them? If you saturate yourself so much, as far as producing, not rappers. Rappers need to saturate, get it while they get it. Singers get it while you get it. Producers need to stay behind the scene and just produce. That way you can keep producing for different people. Even in the future, once you change and adapt with the times, you can always be there.
I think my biggest mistake has been I didn't recognize like who I was or where I was in terms of my career. When you're young, I was 19. So for me, I'm 19, I'm out there doing what I do and just trying to stay on top of my work. And, you know, I had a really strong work ethic. I was very focused. I didn't care about, like, hanging out with chicks and drinking and partying. Like, I wasn't there for that. You know, I'm there to do a job. And I was very focused on that. So in that, you know, as things progressed, 5, 10 years later, whatever, it got to a point where when I look back, I didn't realize where I was. Like a person on the outside in would look and say, wow, you know, you around successful people, powerful people, influential people. Like you have a lot of things available to you. And, you know, you're doing a great job, but you're not networking maybe to the degree that you should, not really capitalizing on those kind of opportunities. I was so focused on doing like an unbelievable job. I guess I could have been a little bit more selfish. I could have been a little bit more, okay, I'm doing a great job, but I guess I didn't have more of a vision and a long picture of my personal career. I was so wrapped up in my career at the moment in terms of what I was doing. I didn't have a longer vision. So I could have been like, yo, you know, I want to tour manage for Prince or Sting or Madonna. You know, I want to like down the road, like, you know, I want to do like huge tours, like 250 people entourage tours. You know, I mean, this is cool, 25 people on the road, 30 people on the road. I got up to like, I think maybe 60 at one point. But, you know, I want to manage like the 4-month world tour, you know, that kind of thing. I think for me, my biggest misstep was not that I didn't have like a big picture kind of brain. That was just superseded by my, got to get this done. This got to be right. This got to be 100%. Want to make sure that this dude is happy or this girl is happy. That part of my brain just kind of took over the other part. I would say that, if anything, it'd be that.
I think to sit someone down who is new in the business, fresh in the business, and eager, first thing I would say is learn as much as you can. Ask questions. Don't be afraid because you don't know the answer to ask. I think, you know, this whole industry is about knowing what happens to your record, knowing what happens via radio, knowing what publishing is, knowing what so on and so forth is. I think it's about knowing, and once you know, you can adjust, apply, you know, fix, remedy, so on and so forth. Everything that you're you question or think about or even introduced to. I think also knowing your position as well. I think people have to realize that sometimes you might not become the biggest singer, MC, dancer, or what have you. You have to find a position. I've seen people throughout my 25 years who have been MCs and then, really realize that that's not for them and become, huge photographers, huge DJs even, huge promoters. I think, not everyone's built for the stage. Not everyone has what it takes for it to be an entertainer, rapper, singer, artist, actor, so on and so forth. But find your lane if you're interested. We need attorneys, we need venues, we need promoters, and so on and so forth. So also be aware of what your lane is.
To get your hands dirty, like know your market, and that's in everything. That's in music and fashion. We're just talking about marketing, or we're just talking about the creators, or we're talking about the executives. Get your hands dirty. Know about whatever you do well enough to give an opinion on it, not just make moves because you got that job. Because what happens is some people that got the job and feel their opinion is a part of what they got to do, and you got this person that blocks doors in many places that just really doesn't know the business well enough. Got the job. And so you can't knock that as how they got there. But get to a point where ideas can get to the market. Product just got to get out easy. These people that's in between, just know your job. If you know your job well enough, you'll know what product should be out, or how you can get it out, or how you can include it in things if you know it well enough. You just got the job, then you sort of just do one thing. Know your job.
Don't enter this business if you want a normal life. If you want, I'm there for every holiday. I don't miss any moments of my kid's life. My woman is always happy because I'm in the bed every night. Don't get into this. If you plan on having any longevity, you give up a good part of your life. When celebrities talk about, how to be a star, you have to give up certain things. If you're in the employ of a celebrity, you do the same thing. People got to remember, on the holidays, when you're hanging out, the celebrities are the entertainment. They're working. So New Year's Eve, Christmas Day, 4th of July, all those holidays where you have those amazing moments, the celebrity is the entertainment for that day. So they never home on the holiday. When you kicking it at the crib, watching the Super Bowl from your couch with all your people, it was a great game. The celebrity is performing a halftime show. And they had to be there a week before. It comes with certain perks, but people don't realize that side. Sometimes you just want to chill on your couch and be with family. So if you want to have a normal life, then maybe this ain't the business for you. Entertainment business is especially touring, is a very organic business. Things change from day to day to day. You call up a venue or a promoter and ask them if they got everything and everything's straight, and it's 2 days out and we've had 20 phone calls and 50 emails and everything's cool, good. And then the next morning he calls you back and tells you that the guy who's providing the backline, the instruments, suddenly there's a problem. He don't have the drums and the keyboards you need. Or you know what? They just had water damage at the building. They don't know how that's going to affect the show. Or, the generator, there's 3 other concerts in town, and the generator they needed to provide power. Suddenly, the guy who said they had a generator for your gig, they don't have a generator no more. Somebody who's a guitar player got sick. So you always prepping for the next day. You're going to hear some stuff that you don't like, have thick skin.
Try to do works that stands out, 100% quality, and be yourself, Like when I say work that stands out, try to touch some topics that will be relevant in perpetuity. That means for lifetime. Like 10 years after, if someone listen to it, it still can be relevant 10 years after you recorded it. That's what I would tell you. And learn the business part of the music.
Do your research, man. Read, know the ins and outs, so you know what to look for. You know what to do in certain circumstances. Don't rely wholeheartedly on any managers or agents. To be involved in your business. And operate outside of your box, man. Branch out. It's not all about you, but it is up to you. Collaborate with some other artists. Once you do that, it's more than the norm. You have to understand that it's greater than ourselves. It's an individual, but then there's a universal. Once you tap into that universal, that's larger than life, but it is life in itself.
Just never let nothing discourage you. Never give up. The minute you give up is the minute that your time is coming. You might give up today and say, yo, I'm tired. But tomorrow be the day that somebody be calling you and you ain't trying to answer them for it. Don't do that.
Not at all. I mean, because it could be real, genuine as far as the fan base or those who they reach it, but it could also be a facade. It could be fluke and fake. So, as far as paying your dues, again, you got to get out in the trenches. Not replacing paying your dues. You got to get out here and grit and grind, man. You know what I mean? You got to. If it's acting or film, you got to train, man. You know what I mean? You got to go. If you're acting, you got to go to these casting calls and auditions and these workshops. Even if you want to be a director or a cinematographer, the same thing applies to that. Or music, you know what I mean? You got to get out here with your music and hit these different parties. Do your open mics if you would, or open up for some artists in your neighborhood or well-known artists that's performing in your neighborhood if you can. But you got to definitely get out in the trenches, man. You got to roll your sleeves up and get out here and put the work in, man. The necessary work in and grinding. And nothing replaces that, because you have some people who are well-known celebrities who they have a lot of followers on social network sites, and you have some who don't have. So you have people who are socialites who haven't done anything. They have millions of followers and they get endorsement deals and things of that nature. And I wouldn't say they really necessarily paid their dues at all. They just whatever, they just famous on the internet. So like I said, nothing replaces grinding, man, and getting in the trenches. So I wouldn't necessarily say people who have huge followings on social network sites have paid their dues. I wouldn't say that at all. That's a great misconception, very big misconception.
I don't think social media is solely paying your dues. I think the individual who says that and that's all they've done might not have paid the same dues in the same regards. But if you're the individual that's out there and you're doing the study work and you're actually doing the long work and hard work, then I believe it's similar in interjecting yourself on a internet-based platform. It's a lot of hard work. I don't know if it's the work that per se we were doing, and I don't know if it's the work that Marvin Gaye and so many others from Motown was doing. I know that's not what we were doing. So there are different degrees and different levels. One would only think that because their work is hard work regardless, so I respect that. But I don't think solely, making sure you're on every website or having your music available for free download, so on and so forth, is paying dues.
Now, there's a lot of young dudes that came in that know the social networking and have done well, but the ones doing it on the level of the industry pay their dues. And like I said earlier, adapt it. The good ones figure out how to use what we have now to do what we do. You learn it. How do I get to more people? Now, my street team don't have to stay out on the street for 8 hours. They can stay out on the street for 15 minutes. You get the right footage, then you send it out through the social media. It does the same thing.
Every generation has their own means of communication. If you want to go back to the Native Americans when the Pilgrims and the settlers first came here into this country, even them, apart from speaking verbally, they had the smoke signal, which was a part of their way to communicate. Eventually the telegraph, and eventually the telephone, and eventually the internet, and so on and so on. I can't knock a generation's progress or take away their achievements because of the mode of communication they use. To me, it would be kind of like, I don't know, I guess I would feel a way about it if I didn't see a progression. Not only can I not knock it, I kind of feel like it's not my place to disparage that. What I can do is contrast against what I had to do in my experience as far as that question is concerned. I feel like they've had an easier road in terms of all that's available to them, the outlets, but sometimes more difficult. It depends. When I was on the road beginning, we didn't have emails and attachments and cell phones. It wasn't none of that. My first tour, like we had to pull a tour bus over on the side of the road, find a truck stop. I had to put quarters in the phone or have a phone card, and I had to call a record label. I had to call, the management office or whatever. Like we had to physically do that. Back then, they even had like fax machines at the rest stops on the interstates where you could actually send a fax. There's a degree of immediacy that you have with communication that I didn't have. That's why I say, in a sense, they had an easy road. On the flip side, I think there's a disconnect with all the connection that people have, ironically. They don't have the same exchange of ideas. A lot of times, there's no context with that kind of communication. So I think it takes away from their ability to progress to a certain extent because they don't have that personal connection. I don't take away their accomplishments and what they're claiming. I just have a different perspective of how easy or how difficult it might have been. I don't care if you're using smoke signals or you on Facebook. Like either you have it in you to get this done with the tools that you have in front of you or you don't. So I don't think you can knock a person's accomplishment because you're not happy with one of the tools they might have had to use it. Although a very powerful tool, it's still a tool. Like they still had to have the skill set, the vision, the dedication, and the drive to get it done. So.
No. Going into film now. I done mastered the music shit. Once you get 20 platinum plaques, what more are you supposed to do? You supposed to keep trying to get more? No. You move on to another profession, which is producing. If I'm a producer, that means I can produce music, I can produce movies, I can produce anything I feel like doing. I'm God. God is within me. I can do anything I feel like doing. And if I've mastered one section of my life that I could make happen, then I feel like I can master the next. There's no limits to me.
I don't think I will ever stop. I will always be involved in some capacity of doing this, but it's about those that's coming up after me getting this and being successful at this as well, because it all ends for us. You know what I mean? It's not eternal in that sense, where one day I won't physically be here. But, you know what I mean? The work that I've done and those who are the knowledge I've passed and wisdom that I've passed on can outlive me. So I would say teaching this, man.
Well, as I say, my newfound passion now is acting, so that's really what I'm trying to focus on a little bit more now, right now, and I would do a little bit of managing, and so, like having some mentoring some artists and so on. But acting is really my newfound passion, really, right now, I have a couple of movies working on it where you're going to see, not a rap scene, so just stay tuned for that.
I mean, after being an entertainer, I think my personal thing has always been design, creative design. I think I've always been interested in that, and whether it's designing a song, and I say that, just a picture of it, laying out a song, coming up with concepts and choruses and verses and bridges and so on and so forth. I think I can always apply that in so many different avenues, whether it's, designing clothing or sneakers, or designing a home or a studio, or an interior designer, or designing or doing, advertisement design. So I think that's something that I've always been interested in. I do to this day outside of, being an MC in a group. That's what I would probably like to do. I love music, but I think that, the music that I'm in has its time and its genre and its age group, and if that wouldn't work for me, I definitely would segue straight into design of some sort. I've gone school for design, architectural engineering, so on and so forth. So I would revert back to that.
My plan is to retire at some point and just lay on the beach, but I got a feeling I'll have like a t-shirt stand next to me. Just say, get the t-shirts here, half price, bringing them to Jamaica. And say, yeah, I'll come up with something, like I already know. So, you know, I always say ambition could be a blessing or a curse, because it's a blessing because, you know, you never wake up in the morning scared. And if you have ambition, you're born with that. And because you always know that there's something you could do. That's how you feel. Something I could do to turn this around. Or you see things, and I'm going to go at that. But it's a curse sometimes because, you know, you ask the question of what's my biggest accomplishment. And like I said, I've had a lot, but, you know, when I say sometimes ambition could be a curse, because sometimes you get there and you don't see it. You get there and you got it, you're doing well, but you're looking at something else. Like, yo, I want to get to that. So, you know, you just got to, I think at a point you realize, or you can understand when you've gotten there and separate that from your drive. And so I think I'll always be doing something because it's there. I got the ambition in me, so, you know, I keep on doing it. But at a point, I want to be able to separate it, put it over there. You know, so, I'll be doing something. I'll see something.
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Like, I've been really thinking about, like, you know, what my next move is. Like, what, you know, after you've been on the road 25 years, you know, you get a little tired. You know, I missed a good part of my children growing up. I've managed to maintain a relationship, been rocky at times, but, you know, God bless me with that. I feel like she's put up with enough crap. My body is not what it was 25 years ago. You know, I didn't abuse it on the road, but I wasn't the best to it either. And so, you know, you get to the point where you start looking at, okay, what else do I want to do? What else can I do? When I was young, I always said to myself, I want to have a job where I'm not in the office every day. I could be traveling. I want to work with money. I want to deal with things. And honestly, I really got my dream job. I really did. And I also said I never wanted to work at one place for like a long time, like going to the same building, punching a card, 9 to 5. I never wanted to do that. You might work for the same artist for a long period of time. It would be short, you know, a 2-month run, a 1-month run, a 3-month run. It was specific to that length of time. It was, in a sense, more project-based. And I like the idea of taking something that is completely in disarray. It's all over the place. It has no beginning, no middle, no end, no sense of direction, none of that. And just kind of taking it and organize it. That's something that I enjoy. It drives me. So I always wanted to do that thing. And like I said, I lucked out and got my dream job because as a tour manager, that's what I ended up having to do. So I say all of that to say that I realized that, I mean, you hear it all the time, but I actually experienced it. Whatever you do, you need to be passionate about it. You need to have, it has to wake you up in the morning. Whatever it is I end up doing, I do know that it's something that I'll be passionate about, that'll keep me up at night, that'll keep me giving my best and 100%. And when I finally do get some rest at night, I'll be content because I love it. So that's it.
I wanna make it hot for ya. I wanna make it popular. I wanna be here. I wanna make it hot for ya. I wanna make it popular. I wanna be here. I wanna make it hot for ya. I wanna make it popular. I wanna be here. I wanna make it hot for ya. I wanna make it popular. I wanna be the man that loves you, the man that holds you, the man that takes you home tonight and make you feel right. The man that loves you, the man that holds you, the man that takes you home tonight and make you feel right. Wanna make it hot for you, twist you out and make you popular. I just wanna be. One that you call to blaze you, the one you give your heart and brain to. I wanna be. Only one you give a the one to never hear you say no. I wanna be. Only one holding your hips, only one licking you. I wanna be. The one that lets you rock the Benz, with your friends, right? You want some of your first class flights, no bags, but you're spending the night. Wanna take you on shopping sprees, not the mall, not the Avenue. The man that you can rely on, the man that spread the bed you lie on.